That's the best way. I think a lot of people get stuck on what makes me unique. What makes you unique is your perspective and what you believe. And if you are showing up for an interview for a job, you better have some thought, idea, perspective about something. You can't build connection and trust if you don't have a perspective. If you don't have anything for people to agree with or disagree with, you haven't been unique. You haven't left an impression. Hey, I'm Jerry. I'm the very best at helping people in STEM careers secure new roles, better career opportunities, and their highest income ever. I totally love doing this. I'm an expert at branding. So I started being a career coach because people started coming to me wanting help with their careers. How do I get a new job? How do I level up? How do I earn more money? And these are my favorite topics to cover. So today, we're talking about how to ace your next job interview. And this is kind of near and dear to my heart because guess what? I've interviewed hundreds of people. I've interviewed hundreds of people and I have 17 years of career experience. So I've sat in an interview or two myself. So I understand both sides. I know how it feels to be, on the other side in the seat as a candidate. And I also know how it feels to be making the decision and how, people actually land roles. So before I get into the meat of it, I do want to let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. And that secret is that hiring it's a feeling. It's a feeling, it's a connection, it's a vibe, and it's the level of trust that you're able to build in that 30 minutes, the 45 minutes, or the hour that you have. That's it. And I know I'm making it sound very simple, but sometimes it is that simple. A lot of my clients who come to me, they're like, trying to work out this matrix of like, if they ask this question, I'm going to say this. And it's like ping pong, back and forth. And maybe at the end of the interview, they'll think I'm the one. But that's not how it's done. It's about a feeling. What feeling did I get from you? Did we build a connection during the interview? Did I catch a vibe? Did you catch a vibe? Is there trust built? Do I believe what you were saying in that interview? So that's a little bit of what interviewing really is about. It's not about going in there and talking as much technical jargon as you can, throwing as many, buzzwords and terms at the person and hoping they're impressed. That's not it. They're not looking for an encyclopedia. They're not, looking for you to regurgitate everything you learned in college or your last role or anything like that. The problem about your interview preparation strategy is that you're only thinking about how to prepare from the interview from your perspective. And you're looking at it as a pop quiz. This is a pop quiz I'm walking into. I don't know what they're going to ask me. I'm just going to, study all of my notes. I'm going to study for it like it's a quiz and that it's like a final exam. But the problem when you take that approach is that you come off very robotic. There's no way to build a connection when you are just regurgitating facts. When you are, oh, this question was in my memory bank. Let me blurt out this answer. It doesn't seem genuine. It doesn't build connection. It doesn't build trust at all. So that's the problem. And that's why it seems difficult, to prepare because you're only thinking that I need to have an answer for every single question that they ask me. And you should have an answer, but all of your answers don't need to be rehearsed. All of your answers don't need to be, word for word, line by line. You need to have a feeling. When you walk into the interview, you need to have a feeling that you're trying to convey. What is the vibe that you want them to pick up from you? Think about it like that. Like, I'm not in here spitting facts. I'm not Google, right? They're not typing in questions and I'm just blurting out. No, I'm thinking about it from how can I build trust? How can I build a connection? So, how do we prepare? The first way that you prepare to build connection and trust with the hiring manager or with the recruiter when you are interviewing is you have a tell me about yourself that directly answers how you're going to solve their problems. Your goal here is to tie what you do, what your expertise is, to what they're looking for. You're not here to genuinely tell me about yourself. That's a bit of an oxymoron. I get it. I know. But a lot of people start tell me about yourself with, hey, this is where I went to school. This is what I like to do, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to tell them specifically those things. You're going to weave it in and out of the other answers that you give so that it seems organic. That's how it seems organic, that you weave in that, like, remote work is important to me. You weave it in, later in the interview when you say, I really enjoy being able to drop my kids off and pick them up from school. I've really been able to find efficiencies in both home life and work life through remote work or something like that. See, you've weaved in that you like remote working, but it's genuine. It's like just conversational without, just blurting out what you want. The other thing about tell me about yourself is every sentence in that answer needs to, it's almost like that is a big intersection, and the interviewer, they can pick and choose which of the side streets they want to go off of based on that answer. So if you say, like I said, something about remote work or, whatever it is you say in the tell me about you really shouldn't say remote work, but just for example, whatever it is you say, you want the interviewer to be able to say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And immediately you break into conversation. So this is how you keep it sounding organic, is because you don't know which side street they're going to ask you to, you don't know which side street they're going to take, but you know how to speak to every side street because it's really whatever piques their interest. If they're interested in your, how you got into the field, you can speak to that. The real truth about how you got into that field. If they're interested about, how you see your past experience aligning to this current role, you know how to speak to that, or you should. These are the types of things that you need to prepare for. So that's one key. The tell me about yourself is the major intersection of the interview. And from there, the interviewer is deciding which side streets they want to step out onto, and then you just form into conversation. The second way that you build trust and build connection during an interview is you're able to articulate why you are here. Why are you here in this interview? You have to know, and it can't be because I need a job. Why are you here? Why did you pick this job? Why did you pick this company? Why did you pick this time to come interview for this job? Be authentic. Really answer the question. Now, these questions do require preparation, but I'm giving them to you now so that you can prepare. You can prepare what to say. Why am I here? Did I pick this role because there are aspects of the role that I do naturally very well, such as A, B, C, and D? Did I pick this company because I'm really into the product that they produce? Am I really into the philanthropy aspect, that I really like the mission of what this company is trying to accomplish? And so take it a step further. I really like the mission that this company is working to accomplish because when I was a kid, I experienced, tie it all back to you. That's how you build trust, you build connection, because no other candidate is going to say what you said about that reason. This is how you stand out. You're not in there just saying some random, whatever people can type into Google and find. You're building this every answer is building on a story that you are using to sell yourself as the number one candidate. So The third way to build connection and build trust with the hiring manager during the interview is your project examples that you come prepared ready to discuss. Can you speak to them from a high level? Can you then get into the weeds? High level means what was the project, who was involved, what was the goal, what was the outcome, what did you do? That's high level. Can you speak high level to the projects? And a little tidbit is that these need to be projects that directly correlate to what this new role needs. Does it correlate to what the company produces? Does it correlate to a requirement that you found on the job description? So you're going to strategically pick project examples that are applicable. You're going to understand high level, how do I speak to these projects? And then you're going to be able to get into the weeds because, again, you don't know which side street they're going to choose to go down. That portion of it is a pop quiz. But you've been there, you've experienced it, you've learned it, you've lived it. You can speak to it. And so the weeds are, so one of the problems you faced were, connectivity across various data centers. I'm just making up, random problems. If that's a problem you faced, one of the questions that could get into the weeds is, so what were some of the solutions that you guys came up with? And can you walk me through how you decided which solution was optimal? That's getting into the weeds. That's how a hiring manager is trying to tease out that you were actually involved in the project and it wasn't one that you kind of just sort of heard about, on the way to get coffee or whatever, right? Like that you were actually involved, because there's certain aspects, of project work that you only know if you were indeed involved, that you sat in on the meetings, that you lived the ups and downs of the project. Number 4, do you understand their problem? One of the major annoyances as a hiring manager is when you get candidates, you get people on your team, and they are simply waiting to be told what to do. No hiring manager wants that. We're hiring you because you're the expert. You have expertise in the field. As the hiring manager, and this can go one of two ways. There are companies, especially in tech, where the hiring manager does have very deep knowledge of the subject matter. However, once you become the manager, the leader of the team, your job is not to be the expert in the technology, in the science, in the project. You're no longer the expert. You're the leader. And the job of the leader is to make sure all of my experts have everything that they need to operate effectively at top performance. So it's helpful to me as the leader if you know what those things are that you need. That is, in fact, your job. These are the problems that we're having. You as the expert come up with solutions. And then while you're coming up with solutions, you're also coming up with, well, what are the things that I need to make this possible? That way, your leader, all they have to do is help you. Oh, you need this? Got it. Putting things in place, connecting you where you need to go. But if I, as the leader, think about it, if I have 10 direct reports and 5 of them need me to tell them what to do, that's really going to take a lot of my time away from, protecting, directing, and connecting. The other 5, they know what they need, and I can't help them get it because I'm over here telling you exactly what you need to do. Laying out the whole thing. Now, I do want to preface that with, if you are a new hire, if you are fresh out of school, ask as many questions as you need to ask until you get comfortable being able to, understand the problem and provide solutions. Really good leaders, they will pair you with other experts. So if you're new into the field, this is something that you would strive to do. But at a minimum, when you jump into an interview, you need to understand what problem is this job here to solve. And if you don't know that, you need to speak to somebody who's currently in the role. You need to ask the recruiter, ask questions. Do not feel, afraid of asking for what you want. Asking questions makes you look smarter than staying silent. So, number 5, the 5th way to build connection and trust with a hiring manager during an interview. Know what makes you unique. What makes you unique, and how do you add value to this team? Again, what makes you unique is usually your perspective on something. So, for example, my perspective on job searching, what makes me unique, is that I don't believe that you should apply for jobs online. I think you should use networking technique. So if you're applying for a project manager position, what do you believe? That's the best way. I think a lot of people get stuck on what makes me unique. What makes you unique is your perspective and what you believe. And if you are showing up for an interview for a job, you better have some thought, idea, perspective about something. You can't build connection and trust if you don't have a perspective. If you don't have anything for people to agree with or disagree with, you haven't been unique. You haven't left an impression. Number 6, I kind of jumped ahead. How do you add value? That kind of circles back to once you know their problem, you can kind of formulate in your mind how I would add value. What do I bring that's going to make this project that much more successful, this much easier? What experience do I have that will move the project an inch further, move the team an inch further? Because that's what it's all about. Nobody wants to stay still. Nobody wants to run around in circles. Not companies, not teams, not projects, not anybody. So there are 2 ways to prepare for your interviews. The first way is you can take my 6 tips. You can go to Google, you can go to YouTube, and you can prepare for it all on your own. You can go DIY. That's the first way. The second way is if you need support, you need help preparing. You heard me say those 6 tips, but you're like, I don't know how. I understand what Jerry just said, but I don't know how to apply that to me, to my situation. I don't know how to formulate, the connection. I don't know if my answers build trust. And you would like, my perspective on your interview prep, your answers, the things that how you're going to build connection, build trust. And you'd like to work specifically with me, go ahead and drop I need this in the chat. Charlene says, I come from a very toxic workplace. My position was eliminated after I asked for more money. Ooh. When I'm asked why I left my last job, what should I say? I've not shared anything. Well, you don't need to reveal these actual facts, right? That the workplace was toxic. It's not relevant to the new position. The position was eliminated after you asked for more money. I'm questioning that. They didn't eliminate your position because you asked for more money. They used that as an excuse to eliminate your position. They were already going to do that. So don't take that personal. Is there a reason that you would have left the job had your role not been eliminated? What wasn't working for you? Were you looking for more responsibility? Can you say that? Were there aspects of the job that you felt you'd had mastered and there were no other opportunities there for you? And I'm just going off the top of my head here, but you want to make it sound positive. It's always positive. It's always about you, right? From the hiring perspective, the hiring manager perspective, probably the worst thing you can do is get in the interview and start blaming other people for anything. Even if it really was their fault, you better figure out a way how to make it about you. You left, it puts you in control. You left because you were in search of something else. But what are good questions to ask if you initially don't have any? You better have some questions. And if you don't, it's only because you're not being authentic. It's because you're purposely trying to be easy, trying to be agreeable, trying to, float on the radar and just get the interview over with. You have some questions. There's something that they said to you during the interview process that made you think, I wonder what they meant by that. Can you tell me more about how the company plans to? What are some of the challenges you guys have faced with that project? I mean, they don't have to be, it's not rocket science. They don't have to be really deep. It's like, we're in this interview having a conversation. And just like when you're having a conversation with one of your friends or anybody, they say something and it sparks you to think about something, something else. And so you take that side street that they just brought up. So I guess that's the best way is when you're in an interview, if you don't initially have any questions while they're speaking, come up with your own side streets that you want to go down. Amber says, I also start rambling when I get nervous and I feel I haven't answered the question fully. That goes back to preparation and knowing how to answer a question fully, right? When someone asks you a question, you want to give, I know everybody's heard of the STAR method. What was the situation? What was the task? What was the action? What was the result? If you can go through all those 4 things, you've answered the question fully. It's perfectly fine at the end of your answer to say, would you like to hear more about that? Should I go deeper or was that good? I mean, keep it real. You don't know. Stop trying to read the person's mind. Because the very best thing that can happen is that the person walks away and they're like, I had such a good conversation with them. They were real. I could tell they're really interested. I could feel what it would be like to work with them on a project, to have a conversation with them about something we have going on at work. If they can walk away feeling that way, sometimes your answers to the questions aren't that important. So we have to focus less on giving, having our answers be 100% and completely right and focus on, the feeling that we're giving out. Nosa says, the part of reading reactions from the interviewer and taking that as a cue when responding to questions can be a bit challenging to newbies. Because I feel in as much as they are analyzing you, you should also be doing the same to them. Absolutely. Charlene says, I feel like I can't be authentic when I don't answer briefly and accurately why I left. Okay, Miss Charlene, we probably should talk about this privately in the DM or something, because I need to understand more about why you can't be authentic. There has to be a reason that you would have left the job, and or we just came out of COVID-19 pandemic. Saying that my role was eliminated, period, is an answer. So that's also something you can say. My role was eliminated in 2019, in 2020. Nobody's going to ask you a single question. Use that to your advantage. Terrell says, how long should each response be? I tend to dabble on more than necessary using the STAR method. You don't need to say anything else outside of the STAR method unless you're telling a story that adds to validating and proving your point. Terrell, I think you probably could serve best, from dropping I need this in the chat, because it's hard for me to say, it's hard for me to understand what dabbling is. And what I do with my clients is, I can ask you the question and you give me your answer. And I'll tell you, out of the 50 words you just said, you only needed to say the first 25. This is exactly where you need to stop to answer that question. So it is a bit of a habit, right? You get into the habit of being able to answer. And if you're given a good enough answer, they're going to ask for more information. My problem is trying to answer questions for a role I'm trying to pivot into. My answers for those roles don't always have the same confidence behind them. And the trick for this is, as I mentioned, speak to people who are already doing the role. And so your strategy is, I may not have had direct experience with this solution or situation, but this is what I understand to be the route that I should take. And I've tried this in my last role. This is very similar to a problem I faced in my last role, last career. And this is how we would have addressed it. Now I understand things are a little bit different in this new field, but from my research, I can tell blah, blah, blah. That's how I would address that. Let's get into a couple more. We got a couple more minutes. We're actually going pretty long today. Danny says she is going to a tech conference in a few days and can't wait to use these tips. So happy to help you. Ashley says, what are some good questions to ask? Actually, Ashley, because it's 12:42 and I try not to take up you all the whole lunch. I will do a whole live about this because this is a whole topic. What questions should we ask at the end of an interview? I'll cover that in a live coming up soon. Lenore is here. We got to meet and jump on a call last week. It was a great meeting. I can't wait to help her out finding her next role. And we got, I'm going to take two more questions. I've had our last question with Rashima says, is it possible to make a great impression in a 30-minute call? How can I be efficient in my answers in such a short call? I love this question because the secret, the real tea is that hiring managers know in the first 5 minutes, 15 minutes is plenty. 15 minutes, they know if they want to hear more about what you're saying or they don't, which is why 30 minutes is not exactly short from the hiring manager perspective, because they really only needed 15 minutes to tell, do I want to talk to this person some more, or have they just not hit it? They haven't hit it out of the park. And so how do you be efficient with your answers in a short call? You prepare, the 6 questions that I have gotten to that I mentioned earlier, and STAR method. Get to the point. Allow the interviewer to dive deep, to pick their side street. Don't answer a question and you're diving deep. You're deep into the woods. And they were really only concerned with, the front street, right? They were really only concerned with high level for that situation. And you gave them way more detail than they wanted to. So start high level and let them tell you what they want. And I think a tip here is use that first question as your meter so that you can understand, does this interviewer, do they just want high level? Do they want a little bit of detail? Do they want the whole boat? Do they want everything? Be in the interview, be present, read the room. You can tell from this person what kind of responses they want. Sometimes the person is very quick and they're like, okay, got it. Yeah, move on. Because you don't want to, you're sitting here explaining something, droning on and on. The person has already made their decision 5 minutes ago that, okay, that's applicable. And so, yeah, you've wasted another 3 minutes talking about it and they didn't really need to hear that. So read the room, use your first question that they ask you as your meter. Am I high level? Am I giving a little bit of detail? Am I getting a lot of detail? And with that, that's all we got today, guys. I'm going to, if you dropped I need this in the chat, I will be sending you a DM so we can talk about next steps. And see you guys next Thursday. Bye.